Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, distinguished guests, good morning from Ankara and good afternoon to the rest of Asia. It is my great pleasure and honor to welcome you all to the panel that Antalya Diplomacy Forum organizes jointly with Rajaratnam School of International Studies in Singapore, RSIS. This is the third of webinar series, and we have quite an attractive topic today, namely leveraging the effects of the pandemic towards regional cooperation in Asia. While the world is facing an unprecedented global health and economic crisis, I believe it can be considered as a relevant and timely one. We will mainly focus today on the Asian response to the coronavirus pandemic and its social and economic impacts. The Antalya Diplomacy Forum is an initiative created and developed by Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu. It aims to provide a platform where issues shaping the global and regional agenda to be openly discussed with a view to finding solutions. Actually, we had planned to hold the inaugurative meeting of the Antalya Diplomacy Forum last March. However, pandemic COVID-19 prevented us to do so. Today, we have a very distinguished and representative panel of eminent speakers, as well as prominent and experienced co-moderator from Singapore. And the speakers include His Excellency Mr. Mevlut Çavuşoğlu, who is our host also today and Foreign Minister of Turkey. Mr. Ceyhun Bayramov, Foreign Minister of Azerbaijan. Dr. Abdul Momen, Foreign Minister of Bangladesh, who will join us in a moment. Mr. Suzuki Keisuke, State Minister of Foreign Affairs of Japan. Mr. Armida Salsiah Alishahbana, Executive Secretary of the UN ESCAP. Dr. Pornchai Dambivatana, Secretary General of Asia Cooperation Dialogue. And finally, Mr. Bambang Susantono, Vice President of the Asia Development Bank. And now, without further ado, I would like to pass the mic to Ambassador Ong, Co-Moderator and Executive Deputy Chairman of the RSIS.
Thank you, Ambassador Murad. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, welcome to this very exciting event. And I want to just add a few words of warm welcome to all the participants. Yeah, I believe this afternoon or this morning we have a lot of things to talk about, and I believe that this is a very important topic which all of us should try to reorganize our thoughts and how we can go forward. So I think maybe we should listen to all the guests, speakers, without further ado. Is it okay, Ambassador Murad?
Yes, exactly so.
So we'd like to proceed with our first speaker. Our first speaker is His Excellency Mevlut Çavuşoğlu. He has been the Foreign Minister of Turkey since 2 years back, but that is under the new government structure, presidential system. Before that, he has been Foreign Minister as well, and he has also served as Minister for European Affairs, European Union Affairs. So he is a very experienced diplomat, very conversant with the relations between Turkey and the rest of the world. And today we are very privileged to have His Excellency joining us and to help us launch this interesting and important discussion. So over to you, Minister Mevlut.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Excellencies, colleagues, dear friends. Let me thank first the Antalya Diplomacy Forum and Rajaratnam School of International Studies for co-hosting this event. And let me also thank all my colleagues and friends for joining us today. We are in the midst of an unprecedented global crisis. The pandemic has been a global stress test and revealed the weaknesses of our world. Daily life turned upside down, healthcare systems have been overwhelmed, economies were put on a hold, unemployment soared, flow of people and goods has been restricted, airliners grounded their fleets, supply chains have been disrupted, access to basic food and medicine became more difficult for many. Racist and discriminatory sentiments are on the upswing. That said, we should also remember that crises create opportunities. It is time to reflect on how we can change the way we do things for the better. We should focus on developing a sustainable vision for the aftermath. I believe there are some lessons to draw from the pandemic. First, nobody is safe until everybody is safe. We must all act and stand together in the face of global challenges. Global problems require global solutions. Turkey has done its part by supporting others and global initiatives. We have sent medical assistance to 141 countries and 5 international organizations. With these figures, Turkey has become the second largest provider of medical aid in the world. Furthermore, we cooperated and provided mutual assistance to many countries in the repatriation efforts. We brought, as Turkey, back home more than 95,000 Turkish nationals from 139 countries, while supporting the repatriation efforts of 91 countries, and they repatriated around 290,000 citizens from Turkey. And we supported and in many cases pioneered the joint efforts in international organizations and the initiatives. Second, regional cooperation is essential to complement global efforts and stand firm against the impacts of global threats. As the title of this webinar suggests, we should explore ways to leverage the effects of the pandemic towards regional cooperation. Asia presents us a lot of opportunities to benefit from homegrown regional cooperation initiatives. The distinguished Secretary General of the ACD will soon inform us on the relevance of the ACD Vision 2030 in the fight against COVID-19. During our ACD chairmanship, we will work together with our ACD partners towards translating this vision into action. The steps taken by the Turkic Council deserve our attention as well. The establishment of a network among the national crisis centers of the member states at an early stage of the pandemic was exemplary. Also, timely measures have been taken by the Turkic Council to preserve supply chains and transit passages among the member states. Now, the Turkic Council Health Scientific Group is tasked with contributing to the efforts for the development of a vaccine. Third, combating the pandemic in conflict-ridden countries is much harder. COVID-19 related complications have set back peace building and development gains in such countries. We welcome the United Nations Secretary General's appeal for a global ceasefire and the subsequent UN Security Council decision calling upon all the parties to armed conflict to engage in a durable humanitarian pause. We could also utilize the fight against the pandemic for dialogue and peace. The conflict in Afghanistan is a case in point. We reiterate our call to all parties to cease hostilities and focus on combating the pandemic. As we expect the cessation of the conflicts during the pandemic and make an effort towards turning it into an opportunity for this cause, Armenia acts contrary to this understanding and tries to exploit the pandemic as seen by its recent offensive into Azerbaijani territories. Dear friends, dear colleagues, at the global scale, risks and uncertainties remain high. With no cure, the battle is far from over. Economies are integrated with one another now more than ever. Protracted recovery elsewhere will hamper our recoveries at home. Therefore, we have to adopt an integrated multilateral approach in the fight against the pandemic. It is also high time to expand digital connectivity, improve logistics and transport infrastructures, secure our supply chains, and fortify business resilience and financial strength. With a strengthened focus on the region under our Asia Anew initiative, Turkey is ready to work closely with each and every partner in the Asia Pacific on these efforts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We will now move to the next speaker. He is the Foreign Minister of the Republic of Azerbaijan, His Excellency Ceyhun Bayramov. And His Excellency has just recently been appointed Foreign Minister, and we now like to listen to his statement. Your Excellency, please.
Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Before we start our discussions, I would like to reiterate my sincere condolences to the esteemed Turkish side on the occasion of Turkish soldiers in the road accident, which took place in the Mersin province yesterday. Our prayers and sympathies are with their families, and we wish soonest recovery to those injured in the accident. Please accept my appreciation for the kind invitation extended by my esteemed colleague, Minister Çavuşoğlu. I would also like to thank the Antalya Diplomacy Forum and Rajaratnam School of International Studies for organizing this webinar. I believe that it will definitely yield fruitful discussions on leveraging the effects of pandemic. This event will also be a good opportunity in providing an insight on how the Republic of Azerbaijan is tackling the COVID-19 pandemic since the emergence. The COVID-19 pandemic brought a number of unparalleled challenges and disruptions that require a worldwide effort in protecting the public health. Countries have taken reinforcement measures on containment, prevention, and response to the spread of the pandemic under the leadership of their respective heads of state and government. Azerbaijan plays an active role in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, both at domestic and multilateral level. So far, Azerbaijan provided voluntary financial assistance to the World Health Organization. These funds are intended for those most in need of assistance from the regional groups of Africa, Latin America, and Asia. Azerbaijan also provided assistance in the form of medical supplies and equipment to individual countries. I would also like to mention that steps taken by Azerbaijan at the domestic level. In February, an operational headquarters was created under the Cabinet of Ministers to prevent the spread of new coronavirus infection in the territory of the Republic of Azerbaijan. Since early March, education in all institutions was suspended. All mass events were postponed or cancelled. Since the end of March, a quarantine regime has been in effect. It includes a series of measures of social isolation and restrictions. The evacuation of our citizens from abroad has been one of the priorities during the pandemic period. I would especially like to emphasize Azerbaijan's active role in the framework of the Turkey Council. Azerbaijan assumed the chairmanship of the Turkey Council on 15 October 2019 during the 7th summit held in Baku with the aim of further strengthening cooperation and concerned efforts in attaining the goals and objectives of the Turkish-speaking world. Taking into account the global uncertainty caused by the pandemic, as well as its repercussions, the member states and Hungary, as the observer state, have sought a unified action in overcoming the challenges and stressed cooperation in the framework of the Turkey Council. The extraordinary summit of the Turkey Council was held through a video conference on 10 April 2020 on the theme of solidarity and cooperation in the fight against COVID-19 pandemic, with the initiative of the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, His Excellency Mr. Ilham Aliyev. I should stress that the summit is the first to be held on the level of the heads of state in tackling the pandemic. During the extraordinary summit, the heads of state emphasized their determination to expand the cooperation in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as demonstrating a firm stance in seeking solidarity for the sake of common well-being, exchange of experience, and uniting their efforts by fully mobilizing scientific, innovative, technological, and medical potential. The heads of state of the Turkey Council agreed to establish a consultation and cooperation mechanism among their respective national crisis centers, which includes the close interaction among the Ministry of Health of the member states, with the aim of sharing best practices, assisting each other on substantive aspects regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. Following the instructions of the heads of states during the extraordinary summit, Azerbaijan, as the chairman in office of the Turkic Council, successfully organized the video conferences of the Ministers of Health, Ministers of Transport, Ministers of Economy and heads of customs administrations, heads of the migration services, Health Coordination Committee, ministers in charge of tourism and health scientific group. These conferences proved to be instrumental consultation mechanism on finding the remedies, mobilizing efforts, and exploring the socio-economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as diagnosis and treatment of dangerous infections. I believe the continuation of Azerbaijan's efforts on the multinational level is worthy of mention. One such instance is the summit of the non-alignment movement in the format of contact group, which was held on 4 May 2020 with the initiative of the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, His Excellency Mr. Ilham Aliyev. President Aliyev, in his capacity as the chair of the non-alignment movement, proposed to convene a special session of the United Nations General Assembly in response to COVID-19 via video conference at the level of the heads of state and government, which received an absolute majority support from the member states. I should underline that this proposal is also significant as it highlights the central position of the United Nations system, as well as the role of the General Assembly as the chief deliberative, policymaking and representative organ in mobilizing urgent actions to effectively fight the pandemic and address the socio-economic impacts. Excellencies, Azerbaijan continues to suffer from the aggression by the Republic of Armenia, as a result of which approximately 20% of the Azerbaijani territories are occupied by Armenia. More than 1 million Azerbaijanis were forced to leave their historical lands and became refugees or internally displaced persons. The 4 UN Security Council resolutions demanded an immediate, unconditional and full withdrawal of Armenian armed forces from the occupied territory of Azerbaijan. However, Armenia continues to disregard these resolutions and other documents of international organizations demanding to cease its occupation and aggression. While the entire world is mobilized to fight COVID-19 pandemic, Armenia resorts to provocation and diversion attempts to escalate tension. On July 12, 2020, the armed forces of Armenia flagrantly violated the ceasefire and used artillery to fire on the positions of Azerbaijan's armed forces in the Tovuz district along the state border between Armenia and Azerbaijan. As a result of the attacks, 12 servicemen, including 1 major general of the Azerbaijani armed forces and 1 civilian have been marshaled. Such military recklessness on the part of Armenia pursues an objective of undermining the peace talks and continuing the occupation and aggression against Azerbaijan. By doing so, Armenia's leadership aims to escalate the situation against the backdrop of socio-economic problems deteriorated further by the widespread of COVID-19 pandemic in Armenia, caused by its incompetent performance and distract attention from the domestic problem in the country. The international response toward the provocation has also been overwhelming. Leading international organizations such as the Cooperation Council of Turkic-speaking states and Organization of Islamic Cooperation released statements, while the Coordinating Bureau of Non-Alignment Movement, with the support of which 120 member states, adopted a communiqué strongly condemning the attack by the armed forces of Armenia. We would like to express our immense gratitude to the brotherly Turkey for demonstrating a resolute solidarity in this time of need. Dear colleagues, in conclusion, I would like to once again stress the significance of multilateral cooperation in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. It is with mobilized efforts that we can claim victory over this catastrophe, in which scientific knowledge and awareness will be of utmost importance. Thank you for your attention.
Ambassador Wong, we cannot hear you.
Hello. Are you still okay now? Can you hear me?
Now it's okay. Yes. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you. We have not yet seen the Foreign Minister of Bangladesh. I suppose he is still held up at his meeting. So if all your excellencies have no objection, I'd like to invite our colleague from Japan to make the statement.
Thank you, Chair. His Excellency, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Turkey, Çavuşoğlu, Ambassador, distinguished colleagues, I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to make a general address in this forum. Unfortunately, this time we are meeting virtually, but this forum was originally planned to be held in Antalya, a very beautiful resort city on the Mediterranean coast, and also the Minister Çavuşoğlu's hometown. Geopolitically and geographically, Japan has been playing the role of the bridge that connects East and West, Asia and America, and Turkey's position is also the bridge that connects East and West, Asia and Europe. I'm very pleased, very excited to make an address on leveraging the effects of pandemic towards regional cooperation in Asia from Japan's viewpoint here in Turkey. COVID-19 has enormous impact on global politics, socioeconomics. Transparency is of great importance in terms that we are able to deal with this kind of pandemic in an effective manner. And we, international community, need to recognize the importance of sharing information in transparent and prompt manner. We should now focus on the response to COVID-19. However, at the same time, I firstly would like to emphasize the necessity of an impartial, independent and comprehensive review on the international health response to COVID-19, including the actions of WHO, the source of infection and route of expansion of COVID-19 in order to improve global pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response capacity. Damage for the free flow of the people and goods shows the vulnerability of the free trade by its nature. And in addition, tight control over the people seems correlated to the successful containment. This situation arising from COVID-19 might have brought about the challenge to shared value. But is it true? For instance, in Asia, Japan and Taiwan, the democratic society, are the cases where COVID-19 was successfully contained with its respective approach at early stage. In Japan, even during the period of emergency declaration, the government cannot implement compulsory restrictions accompanied with penalties on going out of houses, and economic activity was continued even if it is a bit slower than usual. Nevertheless, by adopting softer approaches unique to Japan, Japan has been experiencing significantly lower number of patients as well as deaths than many other countries. We are now trying to find a good balance between preventive measures against infection and resumption of economic activities. While the road ahead is tough, we would like to get through the pandemic with the combined wisdom of people from all over the world. And we hope that we can prove the fact that free trade, freedom of navigation, basic human rights, democracy, rule of law are still the universal values for the foundation of prosperity and economic growth through successfully riding out this pandemic with those values. We need to focus not only on the change or impact of COVID-19, but also on a trend that has not changed, such as climate change, geopolitical tensions, including East China Sea, South China Sea, and concern on human rights in Hong Kong, Uyghur, as well as the inappropriate international cooperation manner that is not for the sake of the people and implementing countries' future, such as sustainability of debt or debt trap. These agendas remain unchanged regardless of the pandemic. Japan has a strong commitment to tackling this pandemic, not only because we think COVID-19 has a very negative influence over the mankind, but also we firmly believe that these universal and important values and agendas should not be forgotten in international politics. International cooperation is essential to combat COVID-19, and Japan is determined to work together with all countries in the world. Having said that, our priority for international cooperation is developing therapeutic drugs and vaccines, equitable access to them, and supporting developing countries. In this context, Japan is willing to cooperate with Asian countries in combating COVID-19. We intend to propose at G7 Summit that establishment of the new scheme that will accelerate the mass production of vaccines and medicines so that enable developing countries to utilize pharmaceutical treatment and vaccines against these virus under a high transparent international framework. Also, especially for the Southeast Asia, Japan will support in 3 areas, such as enhancing ASEAN's capacity to deal with infection diseases, establishing ASEAN Center for Public Health Emergencies and Emerging Diseases, strengthening its economic resilience. And for South Asia, Central Asia, and Caucasus region, same as for Turkey, we are also providing support for infectious disease control, as well as for health and medical system development under both bilateral and multilateral frameworks. Japan provides those assistance with a hope to build a resilience in the international society, not just with temporary measures, but with a long-term perspective. Our goal is such that this effort will prevail in the whole world and thus build no one left behind society with great transparency. We wish to do so by working together hand in hand with countries and international organizations that present today. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Suzuki from Japan. I'd like to call on our next speaker, Ms. Amida Aris-Jabana, representing the UN SCAP based in Bangkok, to deliver her remarks. Madam, please.
Yes. Thank you very much, Ambassador Ong, Excellency Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu, Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a privilege for me to speak at this very distinguished forum. May I start my remarks by reminding all of us that we have yet to recommit ourselves to the Agenda 2030 on Sustainable Development. The Asia-Pacific region is not on track to achieve any of the SDGs by 2030, even before the pandemic struck. The impact of COVID-19 in Asia-Pacific risks rolling back hard-won development gains and pushing the region further off track in the achievement of SDGs. Yet, the crisis provides us opportunities to prioritize responses that can accelerate the economic and social transformation needed to achieve SDGs. Countries in the region should embrace SDGs as their guiding compass in charting their recovery by emphasizing resilience and building back better strategy. Countries have an opportunity to mitigate inequalities, adopt sustainable consumption production, accelerate decarbonization of the economy. Recovery with social and economic transformation will not be possible without strengthening SDG 6, which is on institutions and good governance. In the region where over 60% of the population still lack access to social protection, the pandemic is an opportunity for governments to strengthen not only the healthcare system, but also the social protection system. The unprecedented scale of disruptions to transport provides an impetus to strengthen the multimodal connectivity and supply chain resilience and prioritize greener transport modality. Investment in ICT and digital connectivity are crucial to expanding services to the underserved population, and the pandemic has brought to the fore the urgent need to bridge the digital divide and boost broadband connectivity. Fiscal stimulus packages need to support green and climate-friendly energy sources, goods and production processes, businesses, especially SMEs, to be able to survive. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the pandemic has shown how interconnected our economies and societies are, and no country alone will be able to address its socio-economic impacts. The need for multilateral as well as certainly regional cooperation is very clear. ESCAP, as the largest intergovernmental platform in Asia Pacific, serves as the United Nations regional hub in promoting cooperation among countries to achieve inclusive and sustainable development, and stands ready to assist and work together with member states in the region. Several areas of our key priority of work that we offer support to member states to include social protection, trade facilitation, connectivity, the wider meaning of connectivity to include transport, ICT, energy connectivity, macroeconomic analysis, financing for development, data statistics, as well as environment and development. In order to support governments in Asia Pacific respond to the crisis and build back better, we have developed a framework for socio-economic response to COVID-19 in line with the UN Global Framework for the immediate socio-economic response that is launched by the Secretary General, in which we also contributed. Three elements or three streams of our work related to the socio-economic framework are: first, the first stream is on protecting and investing in people and enhancing resilience of societies and communities, especially women, vulnerable groups of population, through strengthening social protection, improving access to health system and basic services, enhancing resilience, including emergency preparedness. Second stream of work is on supporting sustainable and inclusive economic recovery through fiscal and monetary stimuli in line with the 2030 agenda, as well as the Paris Climate Agreement. The third stream of work is on restoring and building resilience in supply chain through regional and sub-regional cooperation on trade, investment, connectivity, that is to include transport, digital, as well as the energy, and also to support the SMEs or the small medium enterprises. The following measures are essential to building back better and are the basis for the intervention through the streams of work. The use leaving no one behind principle to identify those furthest behind in accessing opportunities, especially the basic services. Analyze policy packages and propose guidelines to ensure compatibility with social inclusivity and climate resilience. Enhance sustainability of transport connectivity, including urban public transport, as well as digitalization and facilitation of freight transport operation. Improve ICT resilience, address digital divide, including through the co-deployment of fiber optic cable along infrastructure networks to lower the costs and reach geographically remote communities. Develop integrated policies to promote decarbonization of the economy. Priority on energy efficiency and also the reduction of pollution as well as climate change mitigation overall. Protect and restore ecosystems as a means of building resilience to future pandemics, including through cooperation on air pollution and biodiversity conservation. So, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 is an unprecedented socio-economic crisis and calls for unprecedented policy responses. Going back to unsustainable levels of environmental degradation and rising inequality is certainly not an option. We need to build back better. In this regard, ESCAP as well as UN-wide system stands ready to assist in developing regional perspectives and options with member states on how to address the critical socio-economic issues arising from COVID-19. This includes lessons learned, promoting coordinated actions, and in rebuilding effort by taking advantage of regional mechanism and framework. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Amida, for that perspective from UNSCAP. I now like to invite the next speaker, Dr. Pongchai Denivat from the Asia Cooperation Dialogue. Dr. Pongchai, Ambassador Pongchai, please proceed.
Thank you, Ambassador Ong. Your Excellency, Mr. Mevlut Çavuşoğlu, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Republic of Turkey, Excellencies, co-chairs, Antalya Diplomacy Forum, Excellency Executive Deputy Chairman, RSIS, Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to extend my congratulations to the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Antalya Diplomacy Forum of the Republic of Turkey, as well as S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies for the cordial invitation extended to me to participate in the high-level discussion at this timely and beneficial virtual forum. Please allow me to offer my deepest sympathy for the suffering and the loss of lives of people in Asia and around the world caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Excellencies, the ACD grouping adopted in 2016 the ACD Vision 2030 for future collaboration towards creating an Asian community. The ACD Secretariat hopes that disaster relief and prevention, fight against pandemics would be included in the draft ACD Blueprint 2021 to 2030, implement the said vision. This is in line with the call to implement SDG 3, ensuring healthy lives and promoting the well-being for all at all ages. It gives me pleasure to share some thoughts on how the ACD could facilitate member states to form a common positive agenda against the pandemic as follows. Firstly, since many ACD member states have successfully flattened the curves of infection rates, we could share with the rest of the world our experiences in and knowledge of how we have achieved it. Certainly, it is not a one-size-fits-all approach, but the lessons learned could surely become models, solutions for other countries. Secondly, so far, production of medical tools and equipment is mostly from Asia, where our capacities could be the ante for maximum production for export to outside the region. We could turn the crisis into an opportunity for trade in goods and services within and outside Asia. Thirdly, the disrupted supply chain of small and big enterprises is restarting and slowly getting back to normal. There is still a need for focusing on the issues of food security and energy security, which forms one of the cooperation pillars of ACD, as recommended in my concept paper submitted to member states. Fourthly, there are opportunities in Asia for health tourism and health-related businesses. The Republic of Turkey, current chair of ACD, is promoting the theme of the new normal and safe and healthy tourism, which coincides with what the world would need right now. Asia could promote extensive networking of medical hub and wellness, which is at the forefront of this new healthcare paradigm. Asian countries may offer world-class medical care and treatment for local and international patients, complemented by the latest medical technology. Last but not least, as we are delighted to learn this news of global efforts to develop vaccines for COVID-19, there is always room for traditional medicine to fill in this state of play. While the culture of Asia is our value and soft power, herbal and traditional medicine is alternative to modern medicine. It is timely to promote further experiments on herbs, including frankincense or use of Ayurvedic medicine. Whether they could be developed as vaccines for COVID-19, because if successful, treatment could be made affordable. In conclusion, I'm confident that the ACD is relevant and will stand the test of time to be an essential platform for multilateral endeavors. The next ACD ministerial meeting will be the venue to discuss and perhaps develop the new normal to become the established new norm for day-to-day patterns after the pandemic and any crisis. We must be better prepared for the new international economic and social order in the near future and come up with collective action through multilateralism, alliances, and cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Pongchai. We have one more speaker, His Excellency Bambang Susantono, representing the Asian Development Bank. Bapak, silakan.
Thank you, Ambassador Ong, my good friends. His Excellency, Mevlut Cavusoglu, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Turkey, Excellency Ministers, Ambassadors, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. With the COVID-19 pandemic continues to pose unprecedented health, economic, and social challenges to Asia and to the world. Most of ADB developing member countries are now projecting negative growth for this year and even for the year 2021. Many countries have employed national lockdowns and border closure as the most immediate response to the pandemic. This led to disturbances in trade and supply chain driven growth. Disruptions have been clear reminders that resilience of global and regional trade holds one of the keys to successful recovery effort. Deeper regional cooperation and coordination will be critical to meet this challenge. ADB has been working with our member countries from the outset of the pandemic, building on our decades-long work to facilitate regional cooperations. I would like to share with you a few highlights. To date, we have approved 20 COVID pandemic response options, with a total investment of about $4 billion. These emergency response options aim at fostering regional health-related information sharing, support to micro, small, and medium-sized enterprise, MSMEs, and also other specific type of joint actions. ADB is also providing a technical assistance to scale up regional approach to COVID-19 response and establish a multi-sectoral regional coordinating mechanism for health security. Our $1.5 billion support to Thailand with additional $500,000 co-financing was approved in June 2020. It is an example of the COVID-19 pandemic response options that tap into regional cooperation as the driving force for the recovery. The program supports enhanced health coverage and payment schemes for both registered and unregistered migrant workers. It also plays a role in strengthening the tourism industry of Thailand as a regional hub in the Mekong sub-regions. So what are the key away from our experience from this pandemic so far? First, trade and investment are drivers of Asian growth and will play a very important role in the recovery. The pandemic has shown that trade increases resilience most immediately in food or medical equipment trade. Looking ahead, regional cooperation will be the key to building investor confidence and providing cross-border market opportunities for the private sector in general, but particularly for the micro, small, and medium enterprises. Second, on the health front, countries need to work together to build capacity for regional disease surveillance, formation of rapid response team to investigate disease outbreaks, and harmonizations of regional treatment protocol and medicine registrations. Pandemics know no borders, and we must ensure that all countries, particularly those with limited resources, can walk together the path to the recovery efforts. ADB is working through our existing regional platforms in the Greater Mekong sub-region, Central Asia and South Asia to help all members build these systems jointly. Third is the digital technology. We have been observing for a long time how digitization of supply chains is important for their efficiency. Similarly, digital tools will be critical for surveillance and care professions in the health sector. Post-COVID-19, digital technology will play a major role in developing resilience. There will be a need to invest significantly in building digital connectivity and ensuring interoperability, data security, and adoption of protocols to safeguard cross-country acceptability of digital copies of certificates, among others. Let me also add the last one, partnership. ADB has been working closely with government, international institutions like the UN system, IMF and the World Bank, business and civil society organizations since the immediate wake of the pandemic. We will continue to use our sovereign and non-sovereign operations experiences and evidence-driven knowledge work to support our countries deepen the diverse partnership globally, regionally, and at the field level. In closing, I'm very happy to join today's sessions on how to deepen regional cooperation at this time of pandemic, leaving no country and no person behind. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the government of the Republic of Turkey for its generous contributions to ADB Asian Development Fund, which allow us in ADB to extend critical support to many of our fragile and lower income members. This webinar is most timely to take our joint efforts as a step further for the recovery and prosperity of the region. Thank you very much. Over to you, Ambassador Ong.
Thank you, Bapak Bambang. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have finished the first slate of speakers. Thanks to Minister Mulut for starting off, and thanks to Vice President Bambang from the ADB to close this first round of discussions. I have no news about the Bangladesh Foreign Minister. I suppose he is still stuck in his prior commitment. In the interest of time, let me proceed to wrap up this first round of our discussion. I think all your excellencies have made various important points with regard to the current situation caused by the coronavirus pandemic. This is unprecedented. In all our working and cooperation program, very few countries or very few organizations have anticipated this kind of pandemic. So what we now are doing is to respond in the way we know best, but this is not enough. As our host, the Turkish Foreign Minister, stated from the outset, multilateral cooperation is essential because we do not know exactly what this virus will do and where it will go. So we need to share information.
We hope we will be able to have more specific views from the panelists about their experiences. And may I kindly remind the distinguished speakers to limit their answers within 4, even 3, if they may do so. And if you allow me immediately, I will start with Foreign Minister Çavuşoğlu. Your Excellency, Minister Çavuşoğlu, in your introduction, you have highlighted the need for cooperation and solidarity among Asian nations for a successful fight against COVID-19. So if I may ask, what are Turkey's short-term priorities for regional cooperation in countering the pandemic and mitigating its negative effects, sir?
Thank you very much for the question, Ambassador Karagöz. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, since the beginning of the crisis, the key message of Turkey was to promote international solidarity, cooperation, and effective multilateralism. And in principle, we always support effective multilateralism, by the way, regardless of this pandemic. And our medical humanitarian assistance all around the world and active engagement in international endeavors are in line with this approach that we have presented. And we have developed a good collaboration with Asian partners in the provision of medical equipment since the outset of the pandemic. In stepping up cooperation on epidemic prevention, we should also work together to take the world economy out of the recession. Now it is time to promote external trade while maintaining the necessary, of course, precautions against the spread of virus. And the fast tracks for personnel exchange and green passages for the flow of goods are effective ways to ease negative impacts of the restrictions on the economy and social stability in the region. And Turkey is ready to set up fast tracks and green passages with the regional countries. And tourism, as I mentioned again in my opening remarks again, tourism and aviation have been the worst affected sectors from the pandemic. And small island developing states and the least developed countries, some of which are in the Asia Pacific, were hurt the most. And there is an increased urgency to continuously restart international tourism. And Asia is also very popular in general, I mean, all the touristic destination, tourism destination. Our theme of the new normal and safe and healthy tourism for the 70th and ACD ministerial meeting will allow us to focus on the main elements of the new normal and devise a strategy to revive tourism in a safe and healthy manner. And our partners can count on us in all these efforts, both at the bilateral level and under the framework of existing international and regional cooperation mechanisms. That is what I can say to answer your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Minister. Now I will jump immediately to neighboring country, namely Azerbaijan. So, Minister Bayramov, let me start by also congratulating you on your new assignment. I wish you much success. So, Mr. Minister, in your view, what are the biggest challenges for more cohesive regional cooperation in Asia? And how can we overcome these challenges to improve regional cooperation in the region, sir?
Thank you. Thank you for your question. And I would probably divide the biggest challenges in two particular groups. Both are very well known and they're not new, let's put it this way. First has to do with the unresolved conflicts, because they represent the biggest threat is security and stability on regional level, and at the same time we believe that on the global level. And we believe that the best remedy here is to invest political will in finding a speedy resolution to them on the basis of the norms and principles of international law. This is exactly what Azerbaijan has been doing for almost 30 years now with regard to the unresolved Armenia-Azerbaijan Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. But unfortunately, Armenian side continues to undermine the peace talks, trying instead to prolong its unlawful military occupation of almost 20% of the territory of the Republic of Azerbaijan, which of course we will never accept. The second challenge, we believe that has to do with poverty. Regretfully, but poverty still lies at the heart of many acute problems which obstruct sustainable development. They range from illiteracy to crime, from unemployment to, I would say, environmental degradation. But first of all, poverty undermines healthcare system at every level, be it personal, family, regional, or even state level. There is a universal recognition of poverty's danger. And the very first Sustainable Development Goal adopted by the United Nations back in 2015 is fully dedicated in eradication of poverty. And if we have a look at the other SDGs, they also reflect fight against poverty under the relevant themes. And we believe that here international cooperation is extremely important in order to resolve these challenges which I trying to mention. These I would especially note on these two issues, resolving of the conflicts and poverty issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Minister. So I understand we have still difficulties with Bangladesh. So I will move immediately to UNESCAP. And Mrs. Executive Secretary, tourism is one of the most adversely affected sectors due to the pandemic. My country is not an exception, of course. Many Asian economies are heavily reliant on tourism revenues. What are the possible venues for intra-Asian cooperation to avoid 2020 becoming a lost year in terms of tourism?
Thank you very much, Ambassador Murat Karagus, for the question. Health-related issues of COVID-19 needs to be addressed first before any rebound in tourism activities will happen. So in this case, certainly the availability of vaccine and therapeutics. Yeah. So and then because the issues for countries to start opening up for tourism is because countries are in different stages in the pandemic. And also the fact that COVID-19 virus is highly contagious, very easy to spread. So with people movement, it is very difficult to be able to effectively contain the disease. However, as we know, the impact of shutting down tourism sector to the whole economy and society is indeed very huge due to its interlinkages as well as its multiplier effect across sectors. This is especially the case the more dependent an economy is to the sector or to the tourism sector. So therefore, what are the options? And this is also then maybe the potentials for regional or sub-regional cooperation. So first, revitalize the domestic tourism market with strict health protocols such as the personal hygiene measures, social distancing, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And this is certainly possible for countries that have successfully managed or contained the pandemic. And this is also certainly would be an advantage for countries with quite large population and sufficient purchasing power. Yeah. So that, therefore, the domestic tourism market or market, for in that case, can be revitalized and help the tourism sector. Second, for countries that have managed to contain somewhat the pandemic, start opening up for selected type of tourism for selected countries, the so-called what we've been hearing, the so-called travel bubbles. The type of tourism, for example, this is also the ideas that have been floating around, medical tourism, resort, for example, certain sports, like golf, wellness, and ecotourism for countries that are endowed, with scenery, this views and so on. So it is also very potential for them to offer this ecotourism. And among selected countries with strict health protocols, the travel bubbles can be joined together for selected countries, but then this is the challenge is actually strict health protocols. This will certainly need cooperation and agreement among the countries concerned in setting up the standard and procedures. So this is certainly not easy. A lot needs to be standardized and set up and agreed on. Such a cooperation of setting up travel bubble among countries would be easier to implement at the regional or sub-regional level. Just to give you an example, for example, within selected countries in ASEAN and between those selected countries in ASEAN with key neighboring countries. For example, selected countries in ASEAN with selected countries in East Asia. Just to give you an example. And the third third measures is to save the industry through temporary relief measures, especially during the crisis period, utilizing both fiscal and non-fiscal instruments, in particular for SMEs, because SMEs are the backbone of the economy, provide employment. And targeted, certainly the sectors or players in the industry, such as the hospitality industry, hotels, restaurant, souvenir shop, and so on, entertainment, maybe selected travel agents, and also airlines. But airlines is you need a different kind of measures. And fourth, start preparing for opening up in stages, again aligning with measures 1 to 3 that I mentioned earlier above, the time frame of which, again, what we understand of the progress of vaccine and also therapeutic development, especially vaccine development, because that is the ultimate solution. The progress as it is expected, maybe at the earliest will be available first quarter 2021. But then it's only the vaccine. Then we need to take into account also of time for the mass vaccination to take place. Then after that, then we can start opening up and so on, including, I think, the tourism sector. But I hope tourism sector will be rebound back stronger and more inclusive and greener. Thank you very much. Over.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mrs. Executive Secretary. Let's hope so. Now I will move to ACD, Asia Cooperation Dialogue. Mr. Secretary General, with its broad membership structure, the Asia Cooperation Dialogue is a continent-wide forum. It is well placed to address common challenges of Asia. How can a dedicated Pan-Asian organization be more effective in countering the effects of pandemic-induced challenges? And if I may further, how do you see the agenda of the ACD evolving in the post-pandemic era?
Thank you very much, Mr. Other than making the best use of online platforms, I believe that we could think of a meeting of public health ministers in order to deal with pandemic or other crises in the future. At the same time, consultations between the public and private sector as well as industries could also be promoted in the area of trade, tourism, and others. I think this is what we could contribute. Turning to the second question, how the ACD could be evolving to make itself relevant and timely. I said earlier that at the upcoming ministerial meeting in Istanbul, Turkey, we hope that the new phase or the second phase of the ACD blueprint covering 2021 to 2030 would be introduced with issue of disaster relief and prevention against pandemic and other crises. We hope that this could be the good roadmap for the cooperation. I also believe that coordination among regional and sub-regional organizations and groupings in Asia should be given serious consideration. I'm sure that the ACD will be a good platform for that purpose. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. And now the last speaker on my list is from Asia Development Bank. Mr. Vice President, the pandemic proved that there is direct correlation between good governance and resilience to crisis. Can you elaborate a little bit on ADB's work on governance and development? And what contributions can the ADB make in this context? Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Karagos. ADB considers governance and development outcome as intrinsically linked. We have been prioritizing governance and institutional capacity development in all aspects of our operation and knowledge work. Our efforts are part of the global commitments contained in the SDG, especially the SDG 16 on governance. And in many countries where citizens have a strong confidence in the government's overall concern and well-being of its citizens, there is a positive feedback loop that the citizens there are more open to following government policies. This was very evident in people's observation of lockdown, social distancing, and other public health recommendations. So what does ADB do? As a development bank, we help our developing member countries to develop not only hard infrastructure, but also the soft infrastructure, such as system, laws and regulation, and institutions, which are all part of the good governance. Both the hard and soft are equally important. We assist our member countries through various modalities, such as investment, through project loans, such as building road, irrigation, water supply, and renewable energy, etc. And also policy reform through program loans, many of which touch on areas such as regulatory reform, ease of doing business ecosystem, seamless procedures, and others. And technical assistance or knowledge support, including capacity building, climate proofing, gender mainstreaming, and others. Our governance and resilience program usually are mainly delivered through combinations of both project, program, loan, and also technical assistance. Our operational procedures in ADB recognize the complementarity of governance and capacity building. ADB governance diagnostic assessment aims to strengthen institutions by focusing on three core areas: public finance management, procurement, and also combating corruptions. All are integral part of our investment projects and are linked to the capacity development support we provide through our knowledge services. Today, we are placing greater emphasis on delivering country-specific or context-tailored support, fitting the unique environment of the institution and the stakeholders. We believe there is no one-size-policy-fits-all. The aim is to go beyond training and technical advisory service, but trigger the drivers of change and transformations of the long-term and more sustainable development. This includes strengthening the use of the country system to enhance their institutional performance. So I'll stop here. Over to you again, Ambassador. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Vice President. So slowly we are approaching to the end of our virtual event today. So this concludes the Q&A session. I believe we had a very fruitful discussion. On behalf of the Antalya Diplomacy Forum, I thank honorable ministers, all of them, and especially our host today, His Excellency Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu, as well as Mrs. Deputy Undersecretary of the UN, Mr. Secretary General of the ACD, and Mr. Vice President of the ADB. Unfortunately, we had some technical problems to connect to Bangladesh, and our special thanks go also to RSIS, our partner today, and Ambassador Ong. So on behalf of the ADF, we send our greetings and hope to see you all next year in spring, actually, however, not virtually, in Antalya. Now I give the floor for his final remarks and close the webinar to Ambassador Ong Kang-yong.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sir, we can all hear you.
Loud and clear.
Very good. First of all, apologies for some technical problems here at the Nerve Center for this Zoom meeting. Yeah. But anyway, I wanted to sum up our afternoon or morning discussion by just 3 words. First, action. We have listened to all the honorable speakers on what kind of actions that have to be undertaken or already on the ground, but we need to carry them through, and there must be systematic follow-up of all our plans on the ground. The second word is balance. We have heard what UNSCAP is doing, and all our respective countries have our individual plans and systematic government-wide activities. So in combating COVID-19, we have to bear in mind the need to balance out all these ongoing initiatives as well as tackling the immediate threat posed by the coronavirus. The third word for me is what I call commitment, our conviction Yeah, we are committed to follow through with multilateral cooperation. We need to work together to maintain, this idea that multilateralism, info sharing, resource sharing is the way to go. And I make this point because as we develop new vaccine, there is now a nationalistic approach to handle whatever vaccine that can eventually come out onto the market. We must share our vaccine, our new discovery in tackling this coronavirus. So action, balance, and commitment must guide us on the way forward. On this note, I want to thank ADF for allowing us to work with them on this particular meaningful seminar on the web. And of course, my thanks to the Foreign Minister of Turkey for being so patient and so generous with his time. Thank you, Excellency. I wish you all the best. So, Ambassador Murad, anything else? Otherwise, we can...
Thank you so much, Ambassador Ong. That was an excellent wrap-up. So, thank you, everyone, and goodbye.
Thank you, and goodbye.